Seven parked the limousine by the front door next to a fountain that had once featured a statue of Charming at its center. Now it contained a marble sculpture of the Queen of Hearts, though substantially thinner and more attractive than the real person. The moment the little man opened the limo door, an obnoxious dance song blasted through the car's brutally loud speakers. What's he doing? What's he doing? Sabrina said. Just wait, Charming snapped, as if irritated that she would question the details of his plan. Here they come, Daphne said, pointing at half a dozen of the playing card guards as they raced to the limo. Starting over the music, they quickly leveled their swords at Mr. Seven's head. Sabrina couldn't make out what they said or what he said back, but they seemed to be arguing. A moment later, the front door flew open and Nottingham stormed out, dressed in a robe and slippers, his crooked dagger in his hand. Let's go, the prince whispered. He led the girls around the back of the house, where they found a door. Where they found a door. Charming tried the handle but was locked tight. I was hoping this was going to be easy, he said, pulling the rope off his shoulder. One end had a grappling hook. To it. One end had a grappling hook attached to it. He tossed it onto the roof and it caught on something. He yanked it hard to test it and gestured to Sabrina. You want me to climb this? Sabrina said. Looking at it is not going to get you onto the roof, Charming sneered. Sabrina shrugged, grabbed onto the rope, and pulled with all her might. She had learned to climb ropes in gym class. The trick wasn't in the shoulders or the arms, but it was in the feet. Wrapping the rope around her heels kept her from sliding down and made the whole effort much easier. Soon she was on the roof, looking down at her sister and the prince. Charming had Daphne leap onto his back, and a few anxious moments later, they joined Sabrina. Charming darted over to the chimney. He peered down into it and felt the bricks. Good, she hasn't built a fire. Meanwhile, Sabrina was quickly pulling up the rope. Her heart nearly stopped when one of the guards rushed around the house below her. He ran right by the rope, and though he didn't seem to see in the darkness, it flicked against the back of his neck. He threw up his hand as if he were shooting a mosquito, and he would have certainly discovered the rope by his ear if Sabrina hadn't been pulling as quickly as she possibly could. Bring it over here, Charming whispered. The girls pulled the heavy rope across the roof the best they could. The prince took it and attached the grappling hook to a rain gutter, giving it a good yank. The gutter creaked, but seemed to be stable. Then he tossed the loose. Not that time, let's continue. The girls pulled the heavy rope across the roof the best they could. The prince took it and attached the grappling hook to a rain gutter, giving it a good yank. The gutter creaked, but seemed to be stable. Then he tossed the loose end of the rope down into the chimney and hoisted Daphne onto his back. We'll go first, he said. If there happens to be someone waiting for us at the bottom, then climb back down to the lawn and run for your grandmother. But you have the rope, Sabrina reminded him. Well then, I guess we're all in deep trouble if there's someone down there. He climbed he climbed into the he climbed into the chimney, and Sabrina watched Charming and her sister descend into the darkness below. After several moments, she decided it was her turn. She scaled the chimney side, grabbed the rope tightly, and lowered herself down. In no time at all, her nose and mouth were filled with soot. All the dust made breathing impossible. She leaned against the chimney wall with her back and used her feet to lock herself into place. Then she reached into a coat pocket for a handkerchief, put it up to her nose and mouth, and took shallow breaths until the itching in her throat stopped. Then she shoved the handkerchief back into her pocket and continued on. Unfortunately, climbing down the narrow space was extremely difficult. She kept knocking her knees and knuckles against the rough bricks of the chimney. She scraped her back so hard she cried out, and before she knew it, Sabrina hit the floor with a thud. Luckily, it wasn't a long drop, and she wasn't injured. She looked around to get her bearings and saw the opening of the fireplace before her. If she craned her neck, she could see into the mansion's grand hall. She was just about to crawl out and find Charming and Daphne when she saw two sets of unfamiliar feet. "What does that moron want?" a woman asked. Sabrina recognized the grating voice. It was Mayor Hart. "He says that you hired a limousine to take you to a bachelorette party," the second voice said. Sabrina knew that one as well. It was Nottingham, and he was boiling with rage. "That's nonsense," Mayor Hart cried. "Send him away." "I'm trying, but the little fool won't listen," Nottingham replied. I suspect he may be dim in the head." "Then can't you cut it off and be done with him? I need my rest." Just then, there was a rush of feet, and another man's voice said, "The driver has departed, Sheriff." "Very good," Nottingham said. "Go back to your post." "As you wish, sir." When the man was gone, the wicked duo continued their conversation. "Nottingham, I'm very distraught over all this. I doubt that I will ever get to sleep now unless—" "Don't even think about it," the sheriff said. "But my burns are killing me. Come to my room and rub my feet," Mayor Hart begged. "Absolutely not, but it's the only thing that puts me to sleep. Try counting tax payments. It eases me to sleep every night. Do it, or I will have your head chopped off." There was a long pause. "You get 15 minutes, Nottingham replied. "Not a second more." "Oh, you're an angel." Moments later, they were gone, and Sabrina crawled out of the fireplace. She scanned the room for Charming and Daphne and spotted them hiding behind a gaudy curtain in the hall. They rushed to her side, struggling to hide their laughter. "What?" Sabrina whispered angrily. "You seem to have got a little of the chimney dirt on you when you came down," Charming said. Sabrina stepped over to a mirror hanging on the wall. In the moonlight, she could see she was completely covered in black soot. Her hair, clothes, and every inch of her skin was as black as coal. Worse, she was starting to itch. She gritted her teeth, did her best to regain her dignity, and then turned back to the pair. Neither had a speck of dust on them. "Naturally," she grumbled. "What now?" "Follow me," Charming whispered. He led the girls through the rooms on the first floor. He opened each door, took a quick peek inside, and then closed them. Whatever he was looking for was not downstairs, so they were forced to climb the steps. Sabrina, who had snuck out of many a place in her life, knew that the best place to walk on stairs was on the edges, as that was where the nails had been placed, and so was usually the quietest. She gave the tip to Charming, who nodded and did as he was told. Moments later, they had climbed the grand staircase and were exploring the second floor. It wasn't long before they exhausted their search. "It's in her room," Charming mumbled. "It has to be." "What's in her room?" Sabrina said. Charming ignored her question. "We're going to have to go in there." "What?" Daphne cried. "Nottingham is in there." Again, Charming ignored them. He walked down the hall and stopped at the door. Before the girls could argue, he opened it and dragged them through. Mayor Hart's room was a shrine to herself. There were pictures of her in various gaudy outfits, all of which were covered in little red hearts. Hanging over her bed was a huge axe that Sabrina was sure could easily lop a pastor's head clean off his shoulders. On the far wall lay a full-length mirror. Nottingham was locked in a chair by the mayor's bed. He was sound asleep with Hart's coat covered in his lap, mumbling something about taxes. "This way," Charming whispered, walking lightly toward the mirror. "What are we looking for?" Sabrina grumbled as she watched the sleeping sheriff. She could see his dagger gleaming in the moonlight from the window. A similar sparkle bounced off the axe. She imagined Hart and Nottingham springing from the beds and cutting the intruders to ribbons. "Nottingham!" the mayor shouted, and sat up in bed. She was wearing a sleeping mask and was reaching to remove it when Charming snatched the girls and threw them at the mirror's reflection. Sabrina cringed, expecting to smash the glass, but instead she and Daphne flew through it and landed on a marble floor. Charming followed them in and turned back to the portal. He watched as Nottingham reluctantly got off his chair and checked under the Queen's bed and in her closet. "We're in a magic mirror," Daphne said as she helped Sabrina get to her feet. Sabrina was too surprised to respond. She had been in a magic mirror many times, of course. The Hall of Wonders was a breathtaking place, but this magic mirror was simply beyond belief. Instead of a long hallway lined with doors, they were standing in the lobby of a posh hotel. The floors were covered in beautiful Persian rugs. There were plush leather sofas and chairs scattered about, and spectacular chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. A wall of windows revealed a beautiful sun-soaked beach just outside with palm trees swaying in the breeze. Sabrina and Daphne approached the windows and gawked at the beautiful scenery. It had been a long time since the sun had shined so brightly in Fairyport Landing. "Is that real?" Daphne said as she gazed out at the crystal blue ocean. Charming didn't respond. "Hello?" he said loudly. He stepped up to a long reception desk and leaned over it. "Hello!" Just then, Sabrina heard a loud bell and an elevator door just opened behind them. A chubby Asian man wearing a Hawaiian shirt stepped out. His face was tanned and his eyes were lined with crow's feet. A big grin filled the man's face and he hugged Charming. "Boss, I knew you'd come back to rescue me. Where have you been?" "I've been out of town, Harry," Charming said, pulling himself away from the man and fussily straightening his clothes. "These are Rhoda Grimm's granddaughters." Harry clapped his hands. "Aloha," he said. "Welcome to the Hotel of Wonders. I'm your host, Harry. Checking in?" "I'm afraid not," Charming said. "I've just come for a few things in my room." "Right away, sir," Harry said. He raced around the reception desk and opened a drawer containing a collection of old-fashioned hotel keys, each attached to a bright red keychain with a number printed on its front. "You own a magic mirror?" Sabrina said. "There is more than one, child," Charming said. "There is?" Daphne wondered. "Mirror never told us that." "Found it," Harry said as he came around the desk and gestured for the group. That seems to be the end of this video, and I think it will be the last one for tonight too. Anyways, goodbye.